Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep, and I mean really deep, 4 kilometers beneath the waves, to explore a controversial new frontier, deep sea mining.
And that's really the question at the heart of this whole thing, isn't it? You've got this massive dilemma. On one hand, there's the urgent need for green technology. And on the other, the preservation of a world we barely even know exists.
Just try to imagine it. A place with crushing pressure and just absolute total darkness. This is the abyssal plain, this vast expanse on the ocean floor. And what do you find scattered all over it? Well, they kind of look like potatoes in a field. Trillions of these dark, metallic lumps.
So what are these things? They're called polymetallic nodules. And you know, the crazy part is we've known about them for ages. I'm talking way back in 1873, when the HMS Challenger expedition first dredged them up. For more than 100 years, they were just a geological curiosity. But, well, not anymore.
So, why all the fuss now? It's all about what's inside these things. They are packed with the exact metals creating huge supply chain headaches today. We're talking manganese, nickel, cobalt, and copper. To put it another way, they're basically batteries in a rock, just sitting there, waiting to be picked up.
And the money here is just staggering. It's estimated that a single one of these nodule fields, one that's about the size of Ireland, could hold over $20 billion worth of these critical metals. Yeah, a number like that, it is definitely going to get a lot of people's attention.
So you have to ask, why now? After 150 years of just sitting there, why the big rush? Well, it pretty much comes down to one thing, the electric vehicle boom. As the world races to decarbonize, the demand for battery metals is just exploding, and companies are now looking to the one place on Earth we have in mind yet.
Okay, so before we get into the nuts and bolts of how you'd even mine this stuff, we really need to understand where it comes from. Because we're not talking about your average environment. We're talking about an alien world, our planet's last truly untouched ecosystem.
So down here in what they call the midnight zone, it's just a world of extremes. No sunlight gets down here, so there's no photosynthesis. The main food source is something called marine snow, which is basically just a gentle rain of organic junk from the waters way up above. So life down here has adapted in these totally bizarre, beautiful ways, often creating its own light through bioluminescence.
And here's the thing. We know frighteningly little about this place. Just to give you a little perspective, only 4 crewed missions have ever reached the bottom of the Mariana Trench. And it's exactly this huge gap in our knowledge that has so many scientists worried about the idea of rushing in with a bunch of industrial machinery. So, okay, given how fragile and remote this place is, you're probably wondering how on earth would anyone even start to mine it? Well, let's talk about the plan for this great deep-sea heist.
Okay, first things first, it is absolutely crucial to understand that these nodules, they are not a renewable resource, not on any time scale that matters to us anyway. I mean, they grow at this mind-bogglingly slow rate, just a few millimeters every million years, as metal ions in the water and sediment just slowly build up around a core. Kind of like a pearl, but over geological time. This quote, wow, it really puts it all into perspective. The entire history of our species, spreading across the whole planet, corresponds to a layer of growth on these things that is thinner than a single strand of your hair. Think about that. Once we scoop them up, they are gone, for good.
So, the actual mining process, it's a massive engineering challenge, as you can imagine. First, you've got autonomous subs mapping the seabed. Then, this giant remotely operated rover, and seriously, just picture a deep-sea potato harvester, crawls along the bottom using water jets to knock the nodules loose. Then, they get sucked up a 4-kilometer pipe to a ship on the surface, where the leftover sediment and water gets separated out and piped right back down into the ocean.
But you know, a process like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Every action has a reaction. And in the deep sea, the consequences are largely unknown. And this brings us to the environmental price tag. Okay, so scientists are basically ringing the alarm bells about 2 main things. First up, you've got these sediment plumes. The rover kicks up clouds of silt on the seafloor, and that return pipe discharges a slurry of waste into the mid-water. These clouds could choke filter-feeding animals and travel for miles. And second, and this is maybe even more fundamental, is just the direct destruction of the habitat itself.
See, here's the thing. These aren't just inert rocks sitting there. In this world of soft mud, the nodules are the habitat. They're the only hard surface around. Sponges use them as anchors. The amazing Casper octopus lays its eggs on them for protection. So when you remove them, it's basically like clear-cutting a rainforest that takes millions and millions of years to grow back.
And we already have some pretty compelling evidence that this damage could be permanent. So back in 1989, a German experiment plowed up a small patch of the seabed in the Peru Trench. Fast forward over 30 years, and the tracks are still there. The ecosystem just hasn't recovered, and more recent studies show a big loss of life in these disturbed areas.
And all of this brings us right back to that central conflict we started with, because it's not as simple as, save the environment versus corporate profits. It's way more complicated. It's a choice between two very different kinds of environmental damage.
Because let's be honest, the alternative, mining on land, has its own set of absolutely awful consequences. Most of the world's cobalt, for example, comes from the Congo, and that involves deforestation, toxic waste, and, often, horrific labor conditions. So you're left weighing the unknown risks of the deep sea against the very well-known and often horrific damage we're already doing on land.
And this right here, this data gets to the very core of the argument for deep-sea mining. One major study concluded that getting our metals from nodules could slash carbon emissions. I'm talking by up to 80% for nickel. Why? Well, because the nodules are just sitting there waiting, and shipping them by sea is super efficient.
And at the end of the day, we absolutely need these materials. I mean, the whole fight against climate change hinges on this massive, super fast transition to renewables and EVs. And that transition, it needs a truly unprecedented amount of metal.
And so we're left with this profound choice with no easy answer. Is it worth it to potentially sacrifice our planet's very last untouched wilderness to help save the ecosystems that we all know and that we all live in? That's the huge question we all need to start thinking about, especially with the first deep-sea mining operations getting closer and closer to becoming a reality.